Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald in Ursa. At the North Adams Historical Museum, at least what will become that, this log cabin, which was originally located about a quarter mile from here, was moved here by a dedicated group of people that wanted to save it 2 years ago. And in those 2 years, they've been working on the fireplace and they've been working on the roof and the windows and the chinking, and it's been a real undertaking. And someday, soon, it's going to become the museum. And Rosemary Tenford, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Your family owned this cabin for many years, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Since 1840?
48.
Wow, and that's when it was built, huh?
Mm-hmm. It was built for the William Bryant Smith and his bride when they were married in October.
And it's sat vacant, I assume, like many log cabins did for many years.
Since 1963.
Well, that's not so long.
Not really.
Yeah,
no.
yeah. But since it wasn't your family, you didn't like it just being out there where it could get vandalized or where it was just rotting away, huh?
No, it was when I finally discovered that it was a log cabin in 1966. I was really elated to be able to tell my aunt who had lived in it, and my family had lived in it too, my aunts and uncles and mother, you know, their family. And that was in 1890s and the early 1900s.
So you got an idea that a lot of your friends probably thought was a harebrained scheme, that you wanted to move this.
Yes, I've been working on it.
It's pretty big.
It's pretty big, yeah, it's 20 by 25. And we wanted to preserve it if possible, but different organizations were busy, had other projects, and so I just let it sit, you know, and the Shrivers were very good about, I've saved it from being bulldozed in twice and burned once, so I thought it's got to be saved for some special
The Shrivers
reason.
owned the property that it was sitting on, right?
Yeah.
And they weren't in any big hurry to demolish it. They were going to give you time, if you could move it, to go ahead and get it moved.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes, they were very kind about that.
And how did you talk this group? I talked about a dedicated group. How did you talk them into wanting to move this?
I didn't. You don't talk this group into anything. They have a mind to do what they want.
Well, we're going to meet them.
Yes, sir.
And also, luckily, you know, 2 years ago, they told us that we're going to move this cabin. We're going to attempt to move this cabin. We've never done anything like this before. We're going to attempt to move this cabin over here on Highway 96 in Ursa. You might want to get a camera out there. And you know what? We did.
Yes, you did.
And we have video from 2 years ago in the process of moving this, and we're going to ask you and your colleagues here that are working on it to talk us through the process of moving, and we'll actually get to see how it was done. So that's terrific. And we'll also get to tour the cabin as it sits now.
Yes,
because you can already see you've done a lot to it. You've poured a footing for it, and you built the fireplace, and you've done a lot.
Yes. The chinking and cleaning out the logs and then putting all the chinking and mortar back. That was like all last year project, pretty much.
Looks like they're still working on it now.
Yes.
I see Paul mixing up some cement over there.
Right. Yeah, they're getting ready to chink, or mortar rather.
Yeah.
And actually it's spots where we used it as test mortaring areas in the back because we were trying out different recipes, if you can believe that, our recipes for mortar.
Well, listen, Rosemary, thank you so much, and we're going to get a look inside, but the real treat is going to see how you move this, because it is a nightmare trying to move something like this, isn't it?
Well, yes, but you know, these farmer guys just got in there and jacked that thing up and put a low boy under it, let it down, and pulled her down a quarter mile down the dirt road, a half a mile down the gravel road, and a half a mile back up here, just like it was a piece of cake.
You know, you've got it's hard to find a woman that wants to work on a log cabin, but Rosemary's got a passion for it, doesn't she?
Well, it's her relative's cabin, and that's an affinity for her to come out here and do this for us.
Now, she said that there are different recipes in mortar, and it looks like she's trying to get rid of one that didn't work so well, or what?
Yeah, we tried about 3 different ones until we found one we liked, that color there, and the consistency of it. So what we're doing now is kind of chiseling out the ones that we tried before, so we can get it all sealed up for this winter.
So you're making, and right now you're mixing up another batch.
Another batch.
That after you apply it is going to look like this up here, huh? Okay, good, okay. Well, she's a hard worker, I'll tell you.
Oh
that.
yeah, she pulled all the nails in this cabin.
Oh my God.
We tore out all the plaster layers inside, and that's something she could do. And
boy.
And we was out here doing log work, and we had to replace 3 logs along this side, and we had Sue York. She helped several days, helped us.
Frontier women.
There you go.
Hey, Paul, pick up your crutch there if you would. I know you hurt your foot, so I don't want you to have to go too far. But let's go over here and look at this this chimney, because I think you guys had to rebuild this, didn't you, before you could?
Yeah, this is completely built from scratch. It's the old stones from the foundation of the cabin,
Oh, okay.
and it's a functional fireplace. We had to put we salvaged the fire brick that was in the old chimney, and then we put red brick around to that, and then we went with a stone. And as we was cleaning these stone and washing them, we found fossils, and them 2 big ones there.
Can you point them out to us?
These little fossils here that's in this stone.
Oh, sure.
Now here's like a shell.
Yeah, there's a big one.
There's a big one. There's another big one. And there's some more in
So
here.
these maybe came from a nearby creek?
Yeah,
that had
right
been,
down here at Ursa Creek. That's where it come from.
Doggone, isn't that interesting? And this was the foundation. So
This is the
these,
foundation
God knows
stone.
how old these stones are. I mean, these might have been there for before they thousands of years before they even built the cabin. Yeah.
And then there's another
Oh, there's a shell. Yeah.
shell there, and there's one right here. It's stuff that we've found looking through all that stuff.
What's your plan to do with these iron rods that are out here?
Well, one of our members, see the railroad track used to be over there about 2 blocks from the cabin, and so these railroad spikes, all the pioneers had their traps hanging on them, or their saws, or crosscut saws, or it was something to where you could hang it and it'd be permanent.
Okay. So you might want, if you might want your saw there because you go out and get wood every day.
Yeah,
and you just want your
reach
saw
up and grab
hanging
it.
there. Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Was the doorway rebuilt? Do you have to rebuild the doorway?
We had to rebuild the
It looks
doorway.
like newer wood. Yeah.
See, when the addition put on, they had a regular panel, 6-panel door in there, and so we wanted to look like the park, so we took and built an oak door for it.
Well, you guys have really gone to a lot of work, but actually the oldest part of it was pretty well intact.
Yeah.
And taking it apart and reassembling it.
No, we moved it in one piece.
That's right. You
One
moved it
piece.
in one
Put it on low
piece.
boy. Yeah.
All right. Well, Rosemary, you really get around. Just saw you out digging up old mortar out of the cracks.
Yeah, kind of Jill of all trades and master of none.
Well, you have to be, don't you? I mean, you have to do a
Yeah.
lot of things.
Yeah, in order to keep up with the guys, or I'd be out of here.
That's right. That's right. We were just remarking when Paul and I were outside the cabin on this the building of the fireplace, and when you look at this, you can see what you had to do when you came in here. You had to rebuild it not only on the outside, but you had to fit that fireplace hole with stone
Yes,
here too.
because it had been blocked up. See, when they built the addition on, then they took the cooking fireplace out of what became the living room and put it into the kitchen side.
I got you.
And so this was all blocked up, and so we had to start from scratch, and we're using it as the living room.
You were able to save some things besides just the logs.
Yes.
And this mantle was in the cabin, wasn't it?
Yes, sir, it was.
It's beautiful
That's-
wood. What kind of wood is it?
It's butternut.
Did it come off the property?
That I can't say, but I would, if anybody knows their hardwoods and the original trees, all of this land was forest, and it had to be cleared and everything
Sure.
cut down and either planed.
Why would they go anywhere else for wood when they had all that hardwood right there?
They
across?
had it right here.
Yep,
Yes,
yep.
it was just a matter of the physical labor, getting it honed out to what they needed it for, logs and everything.
So, some of the doors had to be rebuilt, and you built new doors to look old.
Yes.
Which is that's just terrific. That one and this one over here to the entrance we just came in is new to look old. But some of the things. This door was probably you found this door, didn't you? You found this door, I think.
No, this was original on the log cabin.
Was it?
But now I can't say it came from 1848. But whenever they redid, you know, then they would have, I'm sure they would have had a door on the stairway.
You were able to, this is a good example of what you're doing. You rebuilt the floor in here because the floors were all rotted out, but here you were able to rebuild it. And this would have been, when this cabin was originally built, this would have been all one room. There wouldn't have been a wall here.
Right.
But this was put in for a little privacy, I guess, in later years.
Yes, I think as the children came on, because they had 7 children within 9-10 years, and so then they had a boys' bedroom and a girls' bedroom upstairs, so then they made this privacy.
Yeah.
And I would say they probably built the addition on about 1860, or maybe before.
That's an old addition.
Yeah, that's still old, right?
You all documented as much as you could about the move and about the original condition of the cabin and everything.
Yes.
And this will be, when you open the museum, this will all be part of the museum. People can look at the cabin as it was when you started the process.
Right,
and what it looks
we're
like
going
now.
to fix up a better one, like put them in picture frames, you know, in the progression. But there's what it looked like when we started.
Right here.
And that includes the addition where your finger is. That's the 20 by 20 addition.
Rosemary, pretty good steps, pretty steep and pretty long way up here. This was a big cabin.
Go through here?
Let's go right
this
through
way?
there.
Okay. Yes.
So this was all sleeping up here. These were bedrooms up here
Yes.
for your family.
We're in the yes.
For your family.
For the big family, this was the boys' bedroom, and this was the girls. It went clear across.
And would it have been separated? Would there have been a wall there?
Yes, I'm sure these are from the very beginning.
We mentioned just, you said, well, they intended to have a lot of kids, and we mentioned they were blessed. How many kids did they have?
They had 7 by 1949. No, I'm sorry, 1959. But
By
that
1859. 1859.
Yes.
They had 7.
At least. There's a couple gaps, so I'm sure they've lost some babies in there, but there was a set of twins. And then the owner of the house, William Bryant, had a set of twin sisters. There's a set of twins, we can trace them all the way down.
Yeah. But it wasn't just the family that lived here.
Right.
The hired help lived here as well.
Yes. Not in the original log cabin, but in the addition that they built on within 6, 8, 10 years.
And the addition was that way. It was
Yes,
built
sir.
out that way.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a 20 by 20.
That's a big addition. Yeah.
Well,
it's almost as
yes.
big as the house, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it had a separate stairway that came back up over the chimney. And Negro Jim, along with the hired help, got to come out of the barn and sleep in the upstairs above the kitchen.
So the prosperity was good for the hired help as well as for the family because they got to sleep in a real house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a heated room
Right,
too from
right.
the chimney.
Yeah, without the mice and the cats and everything else that
Yes.
gets into a barn. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, for protection.
Well, very interesting. Do you have plans for up here? Or
Yes.
Okay. Will it look like sleeping quarters up here when you're finished?
Now we're not. It'll be more for display. We're not going to
okay.
furnish it. It's strictly going to be a museum unless they change their minds.
So you'll be able to walk up the steps and come up here and see the displays that the historical
Yes.
museum puts on up here.
There will be two more rooms and then this hallway. And if you notice up here, these are the original half shorn
the
timbers
rounded,
and the original sheathing.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
It certainly is.
I mean, I think it's just amazing that it has lasted all this time, and there are shingles under some of the tin, you know, and they would have been the original shingles on the log cabin too. So it's just amazing that this grand old lady lasted as long as she did.
It looks like she's going to last a while longer too.
Yes, it was really a surprise and a thrill when I realized this was a log cabin. And it wasn't until Shrivers turned their cattle into the original area that, of course, they'd scratch and rub against the clapboard. See, it's been covered with clapboard ever since the beginning of time.
To expose the logs.
It exposed the
Yeah.
logs because they start falling off, and I got to tell my Aunt Annie, who was born in 1892, and she had lived here, and she did not know this was a log cabin. The whole family did not know. And
But it was a frame house.
Oh my!
Ray Mugi, about a little over 2 years ago, you called me at the station. You said, we got an interesting project we're going to attempt here. We found this log cabin right off Highway 96, and we're going to attempt to move it a quarter of a mile. And I said, well, you're crazy enough for an Illinois story as far as I'm concerned. So we went out there with our camera. We got some pictures of you moving. Tell me, just getting started, what was it like to try to get that thing just even off of its foundation?
Yeah. Well, the good thing about this move was, Mark, that it had a basement underneath the cabin. And that way we were able to work on both sides of the foundation to get the jacks in. And we put a lifting station at each corner of the cabin, and that way we were able to lift it up. And with having a basement underneath of it, we just had to knock out the very east wall and then back the low boy under it. We had some kids from the school come down, industrial arts, and do a lot of the labor, because average age of our workers is 70-something.
These are the kids from Unity and Mendon, is that
Yes.
the bunch? Yeah, they do a lot of building and
Yeah.
construction stuff, don't they?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Okay, so you're able to get under it. Now, a lot of people don't want to know what a low boy is. Describe a low boy for me.
Well, one of the members had a triple axle lowboy that he bought on the Army surplus over at Springfield, and he pulled it home, and I worked on it the winter before we moved. One axle wouldn't actually turn. It had a lot of problems with the gussets and the floor in it. And then I had a trucker from Quincy loaned us a dolly for the front, so we were able to put the dolly underneath the lowboy and then hook it on the farm tractor.
Okay, so the idea was to pick up the cabin and then put it onto a trailer, right? And then try to haul, it's a big thing to haul, on a skinny little private road, right?
Yeah.
So was there a lot of, did you have to move a lot of stuff, or how did that work?
Well, they had to pick up several of the lines at the substation at 96 and down here where we turned off. But the first move that we came out over this cabin was actually built on the Warsaw to Quincy stagecoach route.
Oh.
And when we were coming out the old stagecoach route, we actually blew one of the tires off.
Oh, God.
The rim was so rusty that it blew off, and we had to stop and fix that.
Yeah, yeah.
Number of things like that.
I guess you're kind of lucky it didn't like shift and then, come off, huh?
The township had a bet going on that we'd never make it. So one of the members, David Schaefer, he followed up with a loader tractor, and he was going to pick up the pieces.
Did you need him, or did he
No,
have nothing to do
no,
that day? He had
no.
nothing to do, huh?
We made the move.
Good.
The only grinch was that I got from IDOT and all the paperwork,
Yeah.
and they lost some of the paperwork. We had to let it sit on the road. Friday we started to move, and we didn't finish it till the following
That can be
Monday.
a bureaucratic nightmare, can it? Trying to
Oh,
get
you
the
ain't
highway
kidding.
departments and the townships and the county and the utilities and everybody to come
Well,
together.
the
for you.
utilities was real good.
Were they?
We were just over on height, width, and length.
We were just over on everything. But, okay, so you get off, let's say you get off the Stagecoach Road, and then you got to get on a county road,
Yeah.
right?
Pryor's Lane was the lane that we took up to the 96, and we had to let it set over the weekend on Pryor's Lane.
And there was room for traffic to get by.
Yeah, we got it
Amazing.
off.
Yeah, yeah.
And I ran down to the farm supply and got some flashing lights put on it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And then you get on 96, and you come down a block or so, I guess.
Yeah,
And to
about
put
a
it,
half a mile.
now, but there's a nice concrete footing here now. That wasn't there then,
Oh,
was
no.
it? So what'd you do with it?
Well, Gene Shriver, the one that owned him and his sister Carol, they donated the cabin, and they donated this property that it sits on. And one of the members had a bulldozer, and he came over and he leveled it off for us. And then we had a local group that done the concrete work, Dunkers. They did all the concrete work for nothing.
No kidding.
They
Oh, that's
donated
wonderful.
their time.
That's wonderful.
And I paid for the concrete, and we went on and set it on here.
Yeah. This is quite a little bunch this is quite a club you got here. What do you
Well,
call yourselves?
We call it the North Adams Historical Society, but our members we're getting up there in age.
Yeah, you need some young blood, don't you?
We really do need some young members that are interested in history. And that's one thing that I really am interested in history.
One of the unfortunate things I've noticed in doing Illinois stories is that people don't seem to get interested in history until they got some history. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right.
And by then, you know, their energy level's a little lower, and their years to survive and to work on it is a little less, and
Yeah.
it tends to get short-shifted a little bit.
Yeah.
But overall, how would you describe the overall? How did you feel when you finally got this mammoth thing moved?
Relieved, because it was an all-winter project, getting it jacked up and getting it under. And if it wouldn't have been for all the people that helped, we'd have never been able to do it.
Yeah. Paul, you know, we always hear the word chinking when it comes to log cabins, and that's the process of like filling the void between the logs, right? I mean, if air would come in, cold air would come in, critters would come in, so you want to keep that limited as much as you can. And we saw the process of mixing that mortar outside, but sometimes you have to get rid of the old mortar, as we saw Rosemary doing. And then if you remortar, you got to refill those cracks.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what you left a little portion here for us to see about how in the day they would have done that.
Yes, there's a couple different types. This chinking here was rock chinking. And they would drive them in there at an angle with a hammer and make them nice and tight. So as your mortar went in, it would collect around them rocks in a hole, and you would use less mortar. And then you do it from the outside, it sticks to the outside of the rocks.
And you could use any material, but if you got a lot of rock, that's
Yeah,
the longest
yeah, right.
lasting thing. So.
I've seen some cabins that had big wood chunks because they'd cut the corners and they had a lot of wood chunk. Well, when you hew a round log square, I mean, you got a lot of wood laying around. So they would use wood if they wasn't close to a creek.
If you apply the mortar, then what you want to do is you want to make sure it gets kind of pressed in there. And
Yeah, yeah,
you
oh
gotta
yeah.
Cake it in there real good.
You got to push your way in there so
Yeah.
it's good and tight.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's interesting. And you're still in the process of doing that. This house has
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of chinking yet.
Yeah,
to
we
do,
got a
doesn't
little
it?
bit left to do out there.
Yeah, a little bit left to do. And the flooring, we mentioned with Rosemary about the new flooring, but you're the floor expert, and you're in the process of replanking this floor. What kind of wood are you using here?
Now we're using oak here. We got a couple logs and got them sawed last spring and letting them dry. Now we're going to plane them down. And this one here was kind of bowed, so we're using a couple wooden wedges there to force it over so we can nail it down.
And you'll do that, and you do that with every one, don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah. You just put a short or two before, and then pretty soon you got to move your cleat over.
And you hope that this building was square, because you're going to end up.
It ain't square.
They were good. They were good, but they're not that good, huh?
Right. They was real good.
Yeah.
I mean, these logs is 7 inches. I mean, they're within a quarter inch. But, well, and then we moved the thing,
And you
jacked
moved
it up. And,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to happen. So you're going to do some patchwork when you get to the corners. You're going to do some patchwork.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. They've had several upgrades in this cabin. Like the first one, they whitewashed all the rafters and the walls.
Yeah, I can see the whitewash.
And then as the wife wanted something better, they put plaster layers on it and painted it.
And you removed all that.
Oh, yes.
In the plaster lab, that's these skinny boards that are thin.
Right.
And that holds the plaster,
Right.
right? So you tack those up and then
You
put
plaster and horsehair, and they plastered it and they painted. And then they come along and they put wallpaper up. And there's probably 3 or 4 layers of wallpaper on that.
Well, you sure can see some flower patterns here,
Yep.
can't you? This is all wallpaper, all
Yep,
of this.
all that's
layer
wallpaper.
after layer. Okay.
And then they had sheetrock over the top of that.
No kidding.
So when we started tearing it off, we found all the goodies underneath.
So you actually saw how the family prospered
Oh,
I mean, if they wanted to cover up the bare logs, then they wanted to cover up the plaster, then they wanted to cover up the wallpaper, then on and on, huh?
It's kind of a woman thing, I think.
Well, I think you're right, I think the woman probably put the wallpaper on because the men were out slaughtering hogs and stuff.
Right,
probably.
right. Yep.
Okay, now this is interesting because we get a chance. It's cleared up a little bit, and we get a chance to look across the road here. And if you look in the distance, the biggest building against those trees on the horizon is a barn.
That's the roof, the top of a barn over there, and that's where this cabin's set. There's a quarter mile over there.
Right where that barn is where this cabin's set. So it doesn't look like a very long move, but it was pretty hairy, wasn't it?
Well, we had to go south and east and back north again, but we made it.
You made it. And it sat there from 1845 until just 2 years ago.
So 2 years ago.
Yeah. And if we look straight down, when you guys were uncovering this to move it, you moved away a lot of dirt, and you found out that this was the first step into the cabin, huh?
Yep, the original stone, and it's wore off too. I mean, you used it a lot.
Isn't that something? And then if we look down to our right over here, we can also see that that was the family cemetery. Was the family's name
Smith?
Smith. Okay, that was the Smith family cemetery.
Yeah, there's a steel fence around it now.
And that was Rosemary's family, and I guess her kin is buried there.
Actually, that cemetery was right next to home plate. When I went to school over there, that home plate, when we hit a ball, we'd have to go over the fence, and of course the fence got beat down. And
yeah, it was always creepy going to the cemetery, wasn't it? For a kid.
And then
now the building right on the closest to us on the hill there, with it looks like it's got a metal roof on it.
Yeah.
You had a tight relationship with that building, didn't you?
Yes. That there is the 5th and 6th grade room of Ursa Grade School. There was a 2-story building in front of that, and that was, I don't know, back maybe 20s. And then they built, and then they ran out of room because it was only a 5-room, 2 up and 3 down. So then they built a gymnasium and a kitchen on, and it was some of that World War II barracks or something they tore down.
From Camp
well, then they
Ellis?
ran out of more room, so they built them 2 rooms back there. And then they needed more room, so they dug out underneath the main building, and we had a furnace room down there, and we had a projector room. And then when they put all the schools together and built Greenfield, around 1962, they sold this Ursa Grade School in sections. And the Shrivers bought the 2 rooms back there they used for storage and some sheets.
So don't you, I think it's very interesting that now that you're involved in this project and this log cabin that is now a quarter mile from where it was, is even closer than that from when we went to 5th grade in school.
Yeah,
Isn't that cool?
1 through 8.
It's a small world, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
The Smith log house is actually where old Ursa was before the railroad came through town in 1879. That's when all the commerce moved a few blocks up. This log house will be part of the Historical Society's museum, and in the future, it'll be open to the public. With another Illinois story in Ursa, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you. For a DVD copy of the program you've just seen, send $19.95 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, subject, and when the program aired. You can also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605.